Welcome to We Are Women, Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
Picture this, it's 3 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, you are thinking about the day that you just had, the Zoom meeting where you literally wanted to just put your head back and fall asleep. You've worked 12 to 14-hour days, you are literally exhausted. And this little voice is saying inside your head, there has to be more than this. Not only that, but you've had to miss 3 out of the 4 last of your child's soccer games because of last-minute meetings. If that resonates with you, you're in the right place, because today we're going to be talking about why it's okay to want more in your career. The reason that this is a topic that I really want to talk about is because did you know that 68% of women executives say that they are burned out? They're ready for something else. But yet only 12% are planning their next career move. If that's you, listen up. Yep, I'm talking to you, because we're going to start working through it today. Before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about me. I made a very bold career move early in my career at Dell. I decided that I wanted to learn that what I was telling my customers about their systems and servers was accurate. So what I did is I took a leap of faith and completely changed paths and took a managerial role down in manufacturing. Now, I've heard people say if you can manage in the factory, you can manage everywhere. And I would have to say that is true. But anyway, when I took this role, I was hired by a guy that I knew was going to be moving to a different state, but he was going to be setting me up with someone that was well respected in the factory, knew the ropes, knew what to do, and was going to take me under his wing. I was set. I was perfect until I walked in that first night. So I walk in that first night and I have my steel-toed boots on, my safety glasses, it's a real pretty pretty attire. But seriously, I walked into the first management meeting and the second level was coverings, and he told me that I was going to burn. Not physically, but that was the part of the factory I was going to be managing, was burn. Well, originally I was supposed to be in a completely different area. And so after the meeting, I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, Brian," I said, "I was going to be in hybrid." I said, "That's where Keith hired me for." And he looked at me and he said, "You don't get to decide where you work. I tell you." And I was like, holy crap, this just happened. Talk about a confidence killer and a great way to start a 14-month journey in the factory. I knew at that point I was being set up to fail pretty much. I didn't know the ropes, but what I did know is if I wanted to survive those 14 months, I was going to have to do whatever I could. And so I learned from as many of the managers as I could, including the one that was supposed to mentor me, but it was still different. And I would go on the line. I would talk to my people. I would get on the line, put gloves on, and help them build until they would tell me to get off because I was slowing them down. True story. But, it was one of those things where I knew I was stuck for a certain amount of time, but I also knew I had the opportunity once I was done to utilize that experience to propel me forward. When I first started, I didn't know what was going to be next, but I knew that I could look at leveraging my strengths even within that role to help me get through it. During those 14 months, I continued something that I had done in the previous role, which was teaching sign language. And this was something that was near and dear to me because my aunt's an interpreter. I have always been fascinated by ASL, and I knew a little bit. So I had taken all these courses to learn more, and then I was teaching not only at the associate, but also at the management level so they could communicate with their deaf employees. And it was probably one of the things that did help me look at landing a training role that was going to be traveling all over the world and training people, like literally a dream job for me. So This 14 months, even though I didn't know what the purpose was in the beginning, I quickly found out when I moved into this next role. That 14 months gave me a unique perspective that no one else had. When it came time to training agents and even speaking with customers, I knew for sure what was happening with their orders. I could give them information that most people couldn't give them, not because I was a trainer, but because I spent that time in the factory and I knew exactly really what was happening. I tell you that story because even though I knew that I didn't want to be there, and I always had this little voice in my head letting me know that she was propelling me forward, letting me know I was going to get through it, and letting me know that things were going to fall into place. And so that's what I want to talk about today, that little voice inside your head. As a matter of fact, I want to give her a microphone because she's doing the same for you. She is your internal GPS letting you know it's time for you to move on to something bigger and better. Now, you might be thinking one of the biggest myths that women are often told is you should be grateful. You should be grateful for the job you have. You should put your head down. You should do your job. Right now the economy is not where you should be looking. Just stay where you're at. And okay, yes, there are some parts of the economy when it comes to the job market that are not great, but there are also different sectors that are hiring. So just because you are told to be grateful and show gratitude doesn't mean that you cannot grow. We should always be wanting to continue to learn and grow, regardless of if we're showing gratitude in our current role. Doesn't mean you're leaving tomorrow, doesn't mean you're leaving 2 months from now, or even, I don't know, 2 quarters from now. So now we're going to talk strategy because knowing that you are destined for more is one thing, but without a strategy to get you there, it's just a dream. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at your career temperature check. So if you've been multitasking, come back to me. We're going to walk through this together. And I will have a surprise for you at the end that you can utilize for the week ahead as well. So what this temperature check is it's on a scale of 1 to 10. How happy are you in your current career? 10 being the most happy you've ever been in any career, and 1 being the most miserable you've been. Next thing we're going to talk about are your non-negotiables. In a job role, not where you're at now, but in the job you would like to be in when you want to make your next move. No, I'm not talking about, oh my gosh, there's a Starbucks right around the corner from my current role. I want to keep a Starbucks nearby. Not talking about that. Seriously, what is it? Do you have to be off work at a certain time? Do you have to be at a certain level? Is it that you want to travel, work remote, or even hybrid versus being in the office 5 days a week? How long is your commute? Right? These are all things to take into consideration when you're looking at your non negotiables. Maybe it's salary. Who knows? Then what I want you to do is what is your timeline? Like, really, how quickly would you like to be in a new role? And don't say tomorrow, because when you're looking at a new role, it typically takes about 3 to 6 months in order to put in the work, in order to look at getting the skills that you may need that you don't currently have, do the networking, get through the interviews, and then the job offer. So this is not some miracle overnight thing. And I don't want you to think that it is, but this is something I want to be able to get you started on so you can get to where you're happy in your career. All right, now we're going to look at your reinvention roadmap. And in order to look at this reinvention roadmap, what we're going to do is we're going to list out what are your transferable skills. What are the skills that you have that you could walk into this new role and you know that you would be phenomenal at it? If you're not exactly sure what some of those skills are, go in and chat GTP and just ask it, what are some of the top technical skills? What are some of the top leadership skills? See which ones you have that you can transfer over. Then I want you to look at what are some of the skills that you can look at growing. Where can you look at upskilling? And what upskilling does is it allows you to not only learn and grow, but it gets you ready for that next position. And then last but not least, we're going to look at your zone of genius. I'm not going to have you walk through it right now. It's going to be part of your homework for this week, but I want you to define your zone of genius. And in order to do this, it's a combination of three things. Number one, what you do effortlessly that you love. You cannot get enough of, you get lost in it. Maybe it's something you do in a current role. Maybe it's something you've done in previous roles, but you wish you could get back to. And then the second part of it is, what do your friends and family come to you for? What is something that when they think of, I have this problem or I need this done, what do they come to you for? It's basically the skill that you give away for free. Maybe you're a great party planner. Maybe you are phenomenal at organization. Whatever it is, that would be the second part of it. What do your friends and family come to you for? And then the third part of that is going to be, what does the world need more of, or what service can I provide the world? Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, this is something where there's so many people that already do this. Why would I even want to throw my hat in the ring? There's so many people in the world, even the people that would be looking at doing the exact same thing cannot touch every single person in this world that needs that service. The second part to that is, your own unique experiences make you who you are. And certain people need you. They need your experiences. They make you relatable. They're not looking for someone else. They're looking for you. So that's the third part of your reinvention roadmap. So just to recap, we're looking at your growth opportunities, we're looking at your transferable skills, and we're looking at your zone of genius. Okay, now, if you have been multitasking, come back to me, grab a piece of paper and a pen, or open up your notes on your phone, because we're going to do a little activity together. We are going to be looking at 3 things that really ignited your passion this week at work. What are 3 things this week at work that really made you happy? I'd like you to pause it, write them down, and then come back to me. Welcome back. Now, what we're going to do is look at 3 things that really drained your energy this week at work. 3 things that if you maybe would not ever have to do again in your job, you would be happy with. I'd like you to pause it, write them down, and then come back to me. Once you've done that, we are going to look at your action plan for this week. And if I didn't mention it earlier, I do like to give homework. This week, what I want you to do is I want you to make a commitment to me to getting up 30 to 45 minutes earlier. And I know, especially if you've had kids, that might be a lot to ask, but trust me, this time for yourself, with yourself, is worth it. The first couple of minutes, what I want you to do, first 5 to 10 minutes, is I want you to just sit in your thoughts and then meditate, right? You get a thought that comes into your head, think about it, crumple it up like you would on a piece of paper and throw it out. Completely clear your mind. Then what I want you to do every morning is journal about your day. What are you looking forward to in that day? What are you maybe not looking forward to? And I want you to do a temperature check right away in the morning to kind of see how you're feeling about that day. All right, with your midweek check-in, in addition to journaling, I want you to go ahead and do an energy check. It's an energy check to see how you are compared to Monday, right? Your days have already been happening. Are you still energized? Are you just trying to go through the motions to get through the end of the week? Are you completely drained? I also want you to write down any wins that you've had for the week. Big, small, whatever they are, jot those down. And then also, what are some of the things that have drained you so far this week? Last thing, what is some small change that you could implement in order to make your days a little bit better? Maybe it's adding 5 or 10 more minutes of meditation. Maybe it is some self-care. For me personally, I start every morning by reading 20 to 30 minutes in a business book. For me, that way I know that I've gotten my learning and growing in for the day. And if more time allows later on in the day, I can definitely utilize it. But I make sure to do it every day because it's important to me to make sure that I'm continuously increasing my knowledge. On the weekend, if you haven't already made the time, really take some time to think about your zone of genius. And like I said, if you have to phone a friend to do it, go ahead. If you've already completed it, great. But I mean, I know these podcasts are short and you may be short on time. So really set time aside if you didn't do it now. because this is going to not only help you see yourself, but it's also going to help you see how others see you. And that's important because you're important to them. Two other things that I'd like you to do over the weekend. One is to write down your ideal job description. And I want you to be specific. I am talking about, where is it located? How much is the pay? What are your coworkers like? What is your boss like? What is the bonus structure? Benefits, commute time? What are the skills that you need? What are they looking for? Write down your ideal job description. If you could look at a job description, and this honestly has happened to me, I have looked at job descriptions. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was written for me. Write yours down. This is your opportunity to be creative and really put out into the universe what you want in your next role. Also, set one concrete goal for next week. We've already kind of talked about what change you could implement, but let's set a concrete goal. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. I mentioned meditating or reading a business book. Maybe it's even blocking 20 minutes on your calendar and sticking to that 20-minute block where no one else can interrupt you, for you to have some creative time. Or maybe it's 20 minutes for you to get through emails. Remember, we see a lot of times that meetings are overlapping. You don't have the time. And by the end of the day, you have 40 emails to respond to and 20 minutes left in the end of the day. Go ahead and put that block on your time, if that's what your thing is, for earlier in the day. Or maybe you do 10-minute blocks a couple of times. But think about one concrete change that you can implement to help you feel better about where you currently are. Remember this, phenomenal women, that little voice inside your head, she is not being bossy. She's trying to help you. And I am trying to give her the megaphone to get you there. That's why I have created a temperature career checklist for you that you can go ahead and get as a free download in the link below. And I've also created a journal template for you. And this template, it's 2 pages, but what you can do is just go ahead and print out multiple copies. I would love for you to be able to not only start this journal this week, but continue it on. And the reason I say that is because I talk about journaling a lot in some of my other free resources, because journaling is not only a way for you to look back on good days when you're having bad days, but it's also a way for you to see how far you've come. In addition to that, by getting your thoughts out of your head and on paper, you are creating more space for creativity. And that's what a lot of us need. A lot of times we just have the blinders on, and we need to be able to rip them back and really let our minds run free. If this episode resonated with you, please tag me, like it, share it with your friends, because right now we are on the point of creating an unstoppable force of phenomenal women that are going after what they want. Until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.